there is drama brewing, and it is fascinating to follow. And this story comes from Jeff Snook, who covers Ohio State and is a guy that has gotten a lot right over the years. And what he is reporting is pretty jaw-dropping. He is reporting that Ohio State's athletic director is, this is his headline, working on a plan to get 5 other Big Ten teams to participate in a 10-game schedule this fall. Here's what I'm reading. Athletic Director Gene Smith, according to, again, Jeff Snook, with the full support of school president-elect Christina Johnson, has been working behind the scenes for the past 6 days to organize fellow Big Ten Conference athletic directors to convince at least 5 other university presidents to move forward with a 10-game season to be played among 6 teams, a source familiar with the movement said. In a proposed format, each team would play the other 5 Big Ten teams twice, once at home and once on the road, beginning either September 26th or October 3rd. The season would conclude by mid-December. There would be no Big Ten title game. As again, I'm reading from a report from Jeff Snook, who covers Ohio State. Many of you may know him as Buckeye Media. He's written several books. This is a guy who I'd like to get on the radio program and have him lay out more detail. But as of Tuesday night, the source claimed Penn State President Eric Barron, Nebraska President Walter Carter, and Iowa President Bruce Harreld are on board with the new plan. The group is trying to convince 2 other universities, the University of Wisconsin and the University of Michigan, to join them. And the talk is they really need to get Wisconsin and Michigan on board alongside of Nebraska, Penn State, and Iowa, as well as Ohio State. This is an unprecedented rebellion that could be brewing in the Big Ten. Again, this report from Jeff Snook that went up late Tuesday night is that the Ohio State Buckeyes are trying to put together a rebellion to play a Big Ten season of sorts, which would involve basically a home-and-home with 6 different Big Ten teams signed up: Iowa, Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Wisconsin, arguably the 6 biggest brands in the Big Ten, to thumb their nose at the Big Ten Conference Commissioner Kevin Warren and the other presidents who shut down football in the state. Holy cow, if this report is accurate, get your popcorn. This is flat out unbelievable. Danny G, when you hear this idea, and again, I just told you to reach out to Jeff Snook. I'm not an expert, okay? I'm not an expert in Big Ten media. This guy is Jeff Snook. Is an
he's
author.
Credible.
Yeah, he's a graduate of Ohio State's School of Journalism. He's written 14 books, including 4 that have focused on Ohio State. He has also written books on the Oklahoma Sooners, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and the Florida Gators. So, again, 14 books he has authored, and he is posting that on his Facebook page. This guy is not on Twitter, but he's pretty plugged in with Ohio State and has broken prior stories related to the Buckeyes. This would be an unbelievable storyline to follow, right?
Yeah, he is legit. This would be insane. Now, besides the obvious, what do you think the major hurdles will be?
Well, I mean, again, I've got to put my lawyer hat on. I mean, I had this question from the get-go, all right? So I always think, like, what are the consequences if you are in the Big Ten shoes and you decided to play a football game and the Big Ten wasn't allowing it? Is the Big Ten going to kick Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Wisconsin and Iowa and Nebraska out of the conference? I think the answer is no, right? So what would happen if these schools decided to stage their own home and home seasons? I don't understand what the Big Ten would be able to do to them. Now, there are obviously a lot of complicating factors. For instance, how would this work from a television perspective? Like, how would it play out that these schools were playing home and homes? How would that work? I don't know the answer on that from television perspective. I don't know what the contracts would read. But I think increasingly, you just heard in the last segment we took calls, and you had a former Iowa football player who called in. The people who are alums of Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska, they're fed up. And they're getting more fed up because in addition to it appearing more and more likely that the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 are going to play, in addition to that, you're also now talking about all of these schools having fans. So it's not just that they're planning to play, it's that they're planning to play with fans present. Just yesterday, Alabama announced they were expecting 20% attendance. Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, announced they were expecting 25% attendance. And Texas A&M announced that they were expecting 30% attendance. This squares roughly, I believe, Texas Tech, for instance, has announced that they're expecting 25% attendance. The University of Texas is going to have fans present. There are, I think, virtually every SEC school, based on the people that I'm talking to, is going to have around 20 or 25% fans present in their stadiums. That's where I think we're headed for the early games in September. It's possible they could adjust and go up or down as you move into October and November. But you're talking about not just playing games, but 25% of fans present. Well, look, if Nebraska and Iowa were playing games, they would have fans present as well, right? I mean, this is not a crazy idea. And so I have reached out to a lot of Buckeye fans that I know who are, sort of dyed in the wool, plugged into the media before I wanted to go public with this Jeff Snook report. And they're all saying, look, this dude is a huge Buckeye fan. He is plugged in pretty well into Ohio State. This is not a crazy off-the-wall report about the idea of all these schools trying to set up their own home and homes to potentially play a 10-game schedule of home and homes in the Big Ten. Dub, when you hear this, this is wild, right? This would be a crazy, crazy outcome. But again, I think there are Nebraska and Iowa fans who are like, man, we are fed up. Not only would we play in Nebraska and in Iowa, we would have fans present. I think Nebraska and Iowa are a lot like the SEC and the Big 12 schools. They would have 25% or so of the fans present in their stadiums. They don't just want to play, they want to have fans present.
Yeah, absolutely. And no disrespect to the Purdues or the Illinois of the world, but these teams are the Big Ten for the most part. These are the blue bloods of the conference. And if these are the teams that are saying, you know what, screw this, we're playing football this year, we're getting a group of 6 of us, and we're going to play each other twice, a home and home, and we're going to have a season, what is the Big Ten really going to do? What is Kevin Warren going to do? Like you said, they're not getting kicked out of the conference, because if these teams got kicked out of the conference
doesn't exist.
Exactly. So they're using their leverage, and I love it. They want to play football. They think it's safe to play football. The Southeastern Conference is playing. The ACC is playing. The Big 12 is playing. And yesterday we had the conversation about the College Football Playoff Committee and the potential of them picking the 4 teams and the Big 10 not even being involved because they didn't play a season. Ohio State is not going to stand for that. And a lot of these other teams aren't going to stand for that either. So they're going to do their best to have a season, and I hope they do it.
This makes me also think, again, we didn't have an official vote, which is why I would be exploring the idea of filing a lawsuit over the Big Ten season being shut down. We didn't have an official vote. But this makes me think, if this were to happen, that the vote may have been 8-6 to cancel the season if they had actually put the university presidents on the record. Because if these 6 schools are willing to play, and if their university presidents will support the idea of them playing the home and home, it's basically an FU to the conference and to Kevin Warren, not only for the decision, but the way the decision was made. And that's why I'd be exploring a lawsuit if I were a politician representing the state of Iowa, representing the state of Nebraska, representing Ohio, Pennsylvania, any of these states where people have come out strongly, the governor, senators, all these people who have said, hey, we disagree with the way the Big Ten decision is made. How can you cancel the Big Ten fall season without a vote actually happening? Moreover, how can you cancel the season without requiring these presidents to publicly put their name behind the decision? I've been on this for weeks now on this show. I understand that everybody doesn't agree on it. And certainly in 2020, there's a huge disagreement on a variety of different issues every single day. But how can you not require the university presidents to put their name behind the decision that they're making? You want to cancel the Big Ten season, fine. Your name needs to be, as the president of the university, connected to a yes or no vote that is publicly reviewable. You can't go into a meeting, lock the door, not allow anybody to know what actually took place in there, and not actually have a on-the-record vote about whether or not to cancel the season. I think what happened is the Big Ten was trying to bully the rest of college football into shutting down. And they thought, hey, we're the Big Ten. We're the straw that stirs the college football drink. The SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, they're going to get in line if we cancel this season. They're not going to have any other option. And what happened is this is blown up in the Big Ten's face because the other conferences said, no, we don't agree with this decision. We're not going to let you bully us into shutting down. And instead of the focus being on the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC playing, the focus right now, I believe, is all on the Big Ten not playing. In other words, this thing has blown up in the Big Ten's face in a massive way. Eddie, when you hear this story, are you as like, holy crap, as I am about the idea? I love it. I endorse it. I give props to Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, if they're trying to make this happen. But this would be an unbelievable rebellion against Kevin Warren's leadership in the Big Ten, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I will admit that I'm pretty familiar with how things work as far as commissioners in professional leagues. I have to admit I wasn't all that up to date on how it works as far as commissioners of a football conference in college football. And I assumed that, much like owners would vote on things in the NFL, that university presidents would have to vote on things. Or I'm shocked if, Kevin Warren took it upon himself basically to make this decision, or if there was something behind closed doors where it was like, hey, take the heat for us. This is our decision. As much as you said, the presidents do need to put their names on it and be held accountable if they did, in fact, want this to happen. But now the blowback is coming back the other way, and a lot of I think these presidents are realizing this was a mistake. And we said at the time, why are they doing this so early? Why not wait until the last possible second if you're going to make this decision to do this?
Why not have and this is my argument as well, they could have followed the lead of the SEC and pushed all the way back to September 26th, because I've been saying this for weeks on the show as well. The SEC anticipated that when college kids got back on campus, they were going to have new rates of infection, right? That there were going to be new coronavirus outbreaks, that people were going to lose their mind. We've seen it at UNC. We've seen it at Notre Dame. Certainly every university is going to have kids that get sick with the virus. And by get sick, I mean mostly test positive and not even know they have this virus, because that's the way a huge percentage of college kids are going to experience the coronavirus. They're only going to know they have this illness because they tested for it. It, for most of them, is either asymptomatic or it's like a cold. And so it's not a severe health consequence. But the Corona bros in the media lose their mind. And when the Corona bros in the media lose their mind, the university presidents feel pressure. And so the SEC knew this was going to happen. All the kids get back on campus. The infection rate goes up in August. All the kids are partying. All the kids are chasing boys and girls, whatever it is. If you went to college, you know the vibe. And then what happens is hopefully things start to stabilize. And the football team can continue to train and everything else. And that by the end of September, things are looking better in terms of the overall coronavirus infection rates, which is certainly the case right now. And if you look all over the South and all over the Big 12, the rates of infection are collapsing in those states. And so by Labor Day, we may well have a situation in the South that's very similar to New York, where there isn't a very substantial rate of infection. And oh, by the way, the rate of death was a fraction in the South of what it was in New York and New Jersey. And so then you're in a position in the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC states, many of which are Southern, to be able to play the season. And the Big Ten could have theoretically waited that out and tried to put itself in the same perspective. Instead, they have bungled their way into a full-blown potential rebellion. We're trying to reach out for this guy, Jeff Snook, right?
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm already sending an email to him.
All right, so we're trying to get him on. I'd love to hear him directly lay out what he is hearing. But, again, potential rebellion